And how are you feeling?
I'm not too bad. Mia's getting better. Sam's flat out in the room beside us, so yeah.
Right, great. I think we'll make a start if that's okay. Morning, everybody. I realised I had my screen share on just before there. It'd be nice to show our faces, wouldn't it? Thanks for joining us this morning. I hope it's going to be a really useful session. I'm Andrew Wilson. I work for the Project Studio. We're the organisers of NECCA, the North East Contact Centre Awards. I'm really pleased to be joined by Christine Allinson, our head judge this morning, and Julie Mordew, who sits on the core judging panel as well. We were just exchanging a few words there with Nick Simpson. She's been tested positive for COVID, so she's just going to listen in, if that's okay, because she's expecting calls from Public Health England and NHS Direct, etc., etc. So thanks for joining us, Nick. If there is anything you want to add, you're more than welcome. But we'll just let you quietly recover, hopefully in the background. Thanks again for joining, everybody. I'm going to share my screen now and we'll go through this morning's slides, and hopefully it'll be a useful session for you. The idea is to present information on making your nomination, to go through the details of that process, and to answer any questions and queries you might have regarding that. We're putting this workshop on to try and make it as easy as possible for people to succeed, for people to be shortlisted, and to get through to the final round of judging. So we'll explain how all of that works. I'll just share my screen now, just bear with me. You can just shout out or give the thumbs up when that comes through.
Yeah, got it, thanks.
Great. I'm just going to go on to full screen, hopefully. Slight delay. There we are. Has that come through? Is that okay, Julie?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Okay. So, yeah, nominations workshop. Should say a brief thanks, first of all, to our various sponsors of NECCA this year. Sunderland City Council, Green Bean. We're really pleased with 2 new sponsors that we've been able to attract into the awards, which strengthens the partnership that support the awards in general. So we've got Verint on board this year, which is fantastic for NECCA, and also BPA Quality. We're also supported again, importantly, by Business Durham, the business development arm of Durham County Council, North Tyneside Council, Invest North East England, and People Gauge. So thanks to all of our sponsors. The agenda for this morning, I'm just going to give a few words of welcome, if that's okay, and then pass across to Christine, who's going to talk you through the process for submitting an award, and talk a little bit about the categories, talk a little bit about the criteria, the judging criteria that submissions are being evaluated by, and talk a little bit about the form itself as well. So Christine and Julie will talk you through the meat of the session from about 10:10 onwards. And we'll hopefully have a few minutes at the end of the session as well for Q&A. So that should take us through to 11 o'clock. We are recording the session as well. I should have mentioned that. We're recording the session, and we will put the recording on the website for anyone who hasn't been able to make this call, if you want to go through particular aspects of the advice that we're about to give. We'll have that recording up on the website over the next few days. We'll be able to send the slides around as well that we've used from this morning's session. So we'll create a PDF copy of those and send those through. And we're always here to help at any stage through the nomination period, which runs up until the 30th of July. On this morning's call, please feel free to show your videos if you would like to. If you can keep yourselves muted when you're not speaking. And if there are questions, if you can drop those into the chat box on Zoom, and we can monitor those and hopefully put those to Christine and Julie towards the end of the session. The timeline, first of all, we had a launch event a few weeks ago. So those of you who attended the launch event or have had a chance to have a look through our website will be familiar with the timeline. But for those of you who aren't, the nomination period runs up until the 30th of July. So we have a cut-off at 5 o'clock on the 30th of July. That's a Friday. After that, we have the first round of judging and the shortlisting process through August and early September, and we announce our shortlist on the 9th of September. And then following that, we go into the final round of judging for the individual awards, for the team awards, and for the organizational level awards. And that final round of judging takes place from late September all the way through October, up to the 29th of October. We then get together as a panel of judges to make the final decisions ready for the big night itself on the 11th of November. That's essentially the timeline before us over the next few months. The big night itself, I'm sure you're all familiar. It's the 11th of November this year. We're hosting the awards with a gala dinner and award ceremony at the Lancastrian Suite in Gateshead. Really big venue, so if we do need to social distance, hopefully we won't need to social distance by then. But if we do need to, that should still be possible with such a large venue. We've chosen it specifically for that purpose. But hopefully, by the time November comes around, irrespective of what happens on Monday with the announcement on business events on Monday, we should be able to get together as an industry again, and I'm sure we're all looking forward to doing that. So make sure that your organisations are booked with a table for the 11th of November, and bookings are being taken now, and full details are on the website. Okay, I'd like now to pass across to Christine, who's going to take you through the bulk of today's session, which is all about preparing and submitting your nominations. Morning, Christine.
Morning, Andrew. Thank you, and welcome everyone. So this year we've tried to bring the awards back to more of a BAU focus, although we do acknowledge we're still operating in different times, but we want the focus to be more around what you do day in, day out. The contact centre industry is a thriving sector, particularly in the Northeast, and we want to celebrate that. So I'm going to take a little bit of time to talk about preparing and submitting your nomination, and then Julie's going to take you through the actual detail of filling in the form. So just to recap on this slide, we've got 16 awards in total, 8 individual ones, 3 team ones, and 5 organisational ones. The details are all on the website, so I'm not going to talk through each of them. I'm going to highlight the ones where we've made some changes on the next slide. So the individual awards, we've split customer service star into voice and digital to reflect the growing number of digital channels, and this was also the most popular award last year. We've also widened the apprentice category to include both internal and external apprentices from level 2 up to level 5. We've got 3 team categories this year, very simply: service, sales and support. And again, the definition of what we class as support is all on the website for you. On the organisational ones, we have a community and social purpose category that's looking for those organisations that deliver the long-term sustainable initiatives in the community. And a new really important category that we've called people engagement. And last year we did have one called employee engagement, but this time it's much wider. So it's around how organisations demonstrate their engagement through 4 key areas. And when you submit your nomination, make sure that you cover off each of these. It's around employee engagement and development, equality, diversity and inclusion, health and well-being, and flexible working. So in terms of selecting which categories to enter, on the next slide, you will see that's the full list of categories. So you can see all 16 there. If you go on the website, you click on any one of them, you can get the full criteria. So if you think, does it fit into that category or might it fit into that one? Click through them all and make sure that you understand the criteria, because that is what we will be looking for you to cover off in your nomination. We move on to the next slide, Andrew. This is around, so this is a generic look at the criteria and what we're looking for. And what I'm going to try and do is just simplify. So for all the entry requirements, whichever category it is, we're simply looking for you to tell us what you've done, how you've done it, and what the impact is. And that bit's really key, because we tend to get the stories and not always what has happened as a result of that. So make sure the impact is covered off. And it's against the 4 key areas you can see on the slide. That's your customer, your company, your colleague, and your conduct, which is how you've done it really. And then for the community and social purpose and the overall awards, there is also the 5th C of community. In terms of the what, this year, we've made it a little bit easier, and on the entry form, we've included a KPI table, but Julie will take you through that in more detail when we look at the forms. But before we move on to Julie, I just want to talk a little bit around the judging process and how that will work. So if we can move on to the next one, Andrew. Yeah, the one after that. So for the individual awards, this will be a one-to-one interview with 2 judges. One will be asking the questions, one will be taking notes to make sure that we capture everything. The interview will be about 40 minutes long, with the exception of the inspirational leader one, because that one will be a little bit longer because we want you to give us a tour of your centre as well. For the 3 team awards, the community and social purpose, the people engagement and the outsourcing, this will be a presentation to a panel of judges. Presentation will last 20 minutes. It will be followed by a 20-minute Q&A. There will be probably 4 judges on the panel, and they will be done virtually. So the judges will be together, socially distancing, but you will be able to remain in your workplace or at home, whatever's easier for you. For the 2 overall contact centre awards, this will be a site visit conducted by 2 or 3 judges, lasting approximately 2 hours, where you've got the opportunity to bring to life why you should win the North East Contact Centre of the Year. Now, depending on restrictions at the time, because don't forget, if you go back to Andrew's timeline, we're doing this primarily in October. Depending on what the restrictions are, decision will be made on whether this will be an actual visit to your business or whether it will be virtual, which we had to do last year. And we made it work and it was fine, but I think you can always get a better feel by actually visiting the premises. But that will be a decision made between us and yourselves if you're shortlisted at that point. And then just a final note from me before I hand over to Julie, is just to say that the judging panel is going to be made up of operational leaders from contact centres and businesses in the North East who've all got a breadth and depth of knowledge. So they talk the same language as you, they understand your business. And it's just to give you some confidence that we are looking and we're looking for the same things from this. And the judges have been in your position. They've all been, most of them previous award winners, so they know what it feels like to be on your side of the fence. And all we're trying to do as part of the process is get the best out of you. So I'll hand you over to Julie now to take you through the detail on the form, and then we can come back if there's any questions at the end.
Thanks, Christine, and welcome everybody. Absolutely delighted to be here again this year. Just waiting for the form to come up on the screen. Here we go. So I'm just going to show you one form. All of the forms follow the same format, and we've tried to make things as easy as possible as we can from you. We took learns from last year, we took feedback from last year, and we've tried to condense it as much as we can. So your guidance and notes are all the same on how to complete the form. And then the nominee details and the nominated by, I think the most important thing on here is to make sure that the nomination has been approved by a line manager, and you know that we do have proper contact details, whether it be by email and telephone. So that's just for ease of us arranging all the judging visits and Zoom visits and what have you. So when it comes to the crux of the application form about the nominee, what we're looking for here is you've only got 1,000 characters, so we really want to know where that person sits within the organisation. Are they in a team that is part of a bigger team? Where do they sit in terms of the organisation within the bigger operation outside of the contact centre? So just a little bit of a summary around the department that they work in, the team that they work in, and what the function is about the function that their particular department works in. The biggest change I think for this year is around the KPI and achievements, which some of you may look and think, I've never seen this before, but we have done this to make it easier and also to take out some of this, some of the data from your actual word count as well, and it'll just make us easier from a consistency point of view to be able to judge apples against apples and pears against pears. Now, not every KPI will be relevant to your organisation, so there is a section at the bottom to describe any other KPIs that you work with, so please do put any internal KPIs that you work towards in there. But running through as to why we need this kind of data is because looking at the first one, customer satisfaction, all categories generally come back to the customer. So whether you're in sales or whether you're in service or whether you've got an internal customer or an external customer. So you must be able to show us in terms of impact what your performance or this person's performance or the team's performance has had on the customer and on their satisfaction. So at the start of what the target was and what you've actually achieved. And this just helps us to be able to find out what the impact was. On NPS, again, first touch complaint resolution, you could have average speed of answer on here, wastage, shrinkage, sales performance, any other KPIs that you've got relevant to your organisation. What I would stress on this point is you don't need to complete them all, but you do need to complete the metrics that you are measured in terms of your department. A lot of concerns may be around sensitivity of the data of submitting this information, and would just give you confidence that it's only the lead judges that are privy to the KPI data. We are all under NDA, so it doesn't get shared, and it doesn't get shared with any of the sponsors or the core panel of support judges either. So it's in utmost confidence. Where on the KPIs, some of you may think that you've got an issue around, particularly if you work in outsourcing, where your KPIs are in partnership with a company that you're delivering a product or service on behalf of, then again, be assured there is confidentiality, but this is important that we're able to measure what the impact's been. The next part of the form, you've got 4 sections, as Christy mentioned. We'll go over the customer, the colleague, company and conduct. Oh, we're flipped over again there, Andrew.
Sorry.
And this is really your point to shine. We've got your KPI, so we already know that you're delivering, we know that you're having an impact, and this is your opportunity now to be able to tell us what makes you different. So when it comes to the customer, we need to make sure that everything that you're delivering comes back to the customer. So that is the whole purpose, that you are in your roles and you're delivering what you're doing, whether it's an internal or an external customer. So this is your opportunity to tell us of what you've done that's had an impact on the customer with your KPIs separate. So when you've gone above and beyond, have you had some great feedback from customers? Have you dramatically increased your CSAT, your NPS scores? This is your opportunity to tell us what impact you've had in that last 12 months. When it comes to colleague, because we're looking for winners, need to be industry leading, and an industry leading needs to be an all-rounder. So you need to be supporting your colleague rather than just on your own individual needs or your own team. And it's how you've helped your colleagues. Have you buddied? Have you mentored anyone? Or have you put yourself forward to be a mental health first aider? So there's all sorts of things where you could have an impact on your colleague. Are you doing pulling together things on a voluntary basis? Are you working with CSR? So this is just an opportunity to show us that you're a real team player, and you're not just a team player, but you're actually having an impact in that team and wider organisation as well. One section that a lot of people generally historically have not completed in this section is around the company. And what we would like to say here is that you've got an awareness of what the function of your team or your role has in terms of the wider company organisation. So where do you sit in alignment to the rest of the business? How important is it? How you work alongside the company? You are a data hub, you are collecting all this data, so how is that used and filtered into other areas of the business? And how does the contact centre team fit into the overall performance and strategic goals of the organisation, so that we can see that you're thinking outside of just your team, just outside of the contact centre, and the impact that your team is having on the performance of the wider business. When it comes to conduct, what we're looking for here and what we mean is how you're making a difference in terms of raising the profile of the industry or raising standards. Do you understand how you differ from your competitors, whether it's cross or vertical sector? So really what we're looking for here is evidence that you've done some benchmarking, whether you've benchmarked against your competitors, whether you've benchmarked against your neighbours, or whether you've benchmarked against other industries. So there's lots of information you can get out there from the likes of Contact Babel, and there's so many resources from technology providers that have got benchmarking reports. We just want to see in here that you've done some evidence of that, maybe that you've done some best practice visits or you've done some networking, so that you know what your neighbours are doing and what your competitors are doing, and that you understand the industry and you're trying to raise the profile and raise industry standards here. So I think that is a really important one for those of you that are well networked. Then it's a great way to evidence that, to show that you really are leading best practice and that you're leading the industry. If you're not, it's an opportunity to now make a difference and show that you understand where you sit in terms of your competition, either vertically or horizontally. And then describe why you feel that this individual should win this category. Nobody seems to have any problems in completing this one, because there's so many stars in the industry and we all think that we should win. But this is the opportunity to really think, what makes them stand out? Why should they win this category? And sometimes if companies have put 2 or 3 nominations in the same category, think to yourself, is it worth putting 2 or 3 people in the same category? Because if you can't differentiate who the winner is, how can we differentiate who the winner should be? So really think about, making sure that this person that you're putting into this category is a real industry leading person or an industry leading team that demonstrates best practice, that's an ambassador for the company, but also an ambassador for the industry as well. So I think that is more or less it on the forms, other than to bring it back to think in your mind, anything that you put on there, so what? So if you're telling us you've done something, ask yourself, so what? You know what it means to you, but what does it mean to your mum? What does it mean to your sister? What would it mean to somebody that doesn't understand your industry? Just ask yourself, so what? Is the contact centre down the road doing exactly the same thing? So what? And I think that for me is one of the key areas on this, is making sure it's got impact and that you're asking yourself, so what? That's that one on that slide, I think. So I think in terms of your nomination, some of the advice I would probably give on this one on being precise and concise. Remember not to use jargon. Again, you can use the mum test or the MAM test. So if somebody outside of your industry doesn't understand what you're saying, we aren't currently working in your organisation, so we don't automatically know what you're saying. So just try and bring it back to basics and don't assume that we know what you're talking about in terms of your jargon and a lot of waffle as well. If just try and be concise. You've got a small amount of word count, so just make sure that the words that you use are really impactful. Using numbers, again, you've got your KPI sheet, which is a great improvement for this year, so that you're not having to fill up all of your word count with numbers. But again, a few numbers that you're picking out, really high level, high impactful numbers, will just make your nomination stand out there. And in terms of telling your story, it is a story, but you need to start with a start, a middle and an ending. And often we all have a great way of starting the story and telling our story, but we forget about the ending and what actually matters, so what, and what impact it's had on the customer as well. Always bring it back to the customer. Again, I think I've covered management speak and jargon. And on Get Personal, some of the nominations we had last year and when we went through judging, the personal side of things really made a difference. So if you can bring some personality into your nomination, rather than them all looking the same and all reading the same, not only does it spark joy for the judges to be able to read that, but it brings it to life and it lets us know a bit more about the personality behind the nomination, so that we feel that we already connect with you by the time we get to judging. So again, think of it a bit like how you deal with your customer experience. It's the same sort of thing for us. It's about us connecting and having that emotional connection with the person that we're judging. So I think that's my top tips on there. I don't know, Christine, if you've got anything to add that I may have missed on there.
No, I don't think you've missed much at all, Julie. As I say, the bit I would reiterate is around the so what and the impact. So tell us your story, let us know the journey you've been on, where you've started, where you are now, how you've got there, but most importantly, tell us the impact of the things that you have done.
I think for anybody starting off from the get-go, looking at where do we start with this, it's human nature to look at the categories and then try and think of a story that fits into those categories. I would probably say turn that on its head. Find your shining stars, find your superstars, find the amazing teams of what they've delivered in the 12 months, and then have a look at the criteria and see where do they fit best. Because we will sometimes look at them and think they don't fit really well in that category, but they would be better in a different category. But it's kind of just thinking it from the end way in, looking on the outside in and thinking, where does that story fit? Which would be the best category to put that story in? So start with your stories before looking for a category and starting to shoehorn a story into it. The other advice I would probably give in terms of collecting this is get as many people involved in writing the nominations as you can. Some of the best nominations have come where they've had people from various different areas of the business that have come and give different slants on it or different views. And it goes back and forwards and they'll all add a little bit, and then you can polish it at the end and make it, you know, smart and make sure the words are impactful. But it's a great opportunity to get your team together to do an engagement piece, to do brainstorm, and just to, there might be little nuggets that you've forgotten about in the last 12 months. So the more people at different levels within your organisation you can get involved in helping to submit your nomination, the better for an all-rounded, more authentic nomination piece.
Okay, thank you very much both. That's been really, really useful, and hopefully we've gone into the right level of detail. But I think it's important to open the call up now for Q&A. And maybe if people can put their cameras on and take themselves off mute, and then we can have a bit of a more open discussion. We've got about a quarter of an hour, maybe even 20 minutes. So if people want to ask questions or clarifications to either Julie or Christine, then now's your chance. All I'd say before we get into that is the support that's available from the website. The information that we've given this morning is pretty much taken from the documents that are available as downloads from the NECCA website. We've got the categories and criteria document, first of all, with obviously all of the categories explained and the judging criteria all laid out. And we've also importantly got the toolkit, the 2021 toolkit, which talks you through the process of submitting a nomination. So please do refer to the toolkit and obviously the category and criteria documentation. Download that from the website as you're working through your entries. And of course, all of the entry forms themselves, obviously, are available from the website. So yeah, I'm going to stop sharing the screen now and we can see who's on the call, and let's open it up and do some Q&A. Mia, I'm going to pass across to you. I don't know if any questions have been dropped into the chat already.
We haven't actually had any questions in the chat as of yet.
Okay, so if you would like to ask a question, please go for it, and maybe raise your hand and we can pick off and hopefully clarify some of the information that we presented. Hello, Ali.
Hi. I feel like I'm back at school.
Raising your hand physically, let's see if that works.
Straight up that. Yeah, my question was, I'm sorry if you've already covered this and I've missed it, is does the application and nomination form get you through to the next round, and then is the judging on when you either come in or you do your virtual judging, or does the application, is it sort of a like two-stage process where you get so many marks from your application and then so many marks from the visit, or is it your application opens the gate to the visit?
I'll cover that one off, Ali.
Thank you.
Your application is what gets you to the next stage.
Right.
Once you're through to the next stage, it's a level playing field. So
Right.
It's not that there's a percentage of marks from that carries forward. It's your gateway, if you like, to the next stage of the judging process. So which is why it's important to pick up on the points that Julie made and make it impactful, because you need to get yourself through to the next stage, and you've got the opportunity to showcase what you're doing it. And that's when you use your creative things, your videos and anything else that you might want to use. But no, once you're through, it's a level playing field, Ali.
Okay, that's lovely. Thank you, Christine.
You're welcome.
Can I just ask on behalf of Kelly, I've just noticed that the questions come through regarding videos to be included in the submission. Julie, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I think this year what we'd like to see is as Christine's just mentioned, the first part of the nomination and the word count, it's the next stage where videos can be included. We just want to try and make the first part of the nomination an equal playing field for everybody, and the videos can form part of the next part of the process. We all know how much technology is advancing, everybody's doing everything by video, but in order to be fair to everybody in the first instance, we are asking that videos are not supported in appendix or extra evidence, and we are just going back to basics of the basic words. Have I covered that right, Christine? Or
Yeah. I mean, what we said last year was we had a mixture because we weren't specific on that one. So we had some that included and some that didn't. And for companies of different sizes, and some have got more opportunity to present that information. So what we said was we'll try and keep it on a level playing field. We'll keep the nomination and application form as easy and as simple as possible. And then, as I've said, that's your gateway, that gets you in. And then it's over to you. You've got creative license to do whatever you like once you get through to the second stage.
what I would add to that on the video is that remember that your video is not there to support your second part of the judging. It's going to be part of your 20 minutes judging or part of your site visit. So we can't give you that extra time to play videos outside of your judging. So any videos that you are planning on using, please factor that into, if you get through the first round, it will come out for your time in terms of the second phase of the judging.
I would agree. Good morning, everybody. It's Nicola, one of the other judges. I would agree with what the girls are saying there. Almost sometimes it becomes a distraction. And actually, if I look back at some of the winners from last year, they actually used no technology, which was really refreshing because it was very much from the heart. So it's not about who's got the best kind of kit sitting behind them. It's the story that you're telling.
Thanks, Nicola. Thanks both. Emily's asked a question as well. I'm just referring still to the Q&A in the chat feed within Zoom. Once through to the next stage, does this also include the use of customer calls, customer feedback, emails, etc.? I guess.
Yes, it does, Emily. So anything like that, once you're through to the second stage, you can bring in, if you think it helps evidence or emphasize the point, you can use anything like that at the second stage.
Morning, everyone. I've had my Zoom virtual hand up, but I'm not sure if it's displaying. Hi, it's Ads. I'm Deputy Director of Customer Services for Land Registry. Thanks so much for putting this on this morning. It's really refreshing and really helpful, and really appreciate your candid honesty in approaching the applications. I've got to confess, I've looked at the North East Contact Centre Awards a couple of times, and the 4 sections have always sort of deterred us a little bit. So you've really helped clarify that. I've got 2 mini questions. One is related to the 4 segmentation. So I love that what you said, Julie, about that tell a story, the start, the middle, the end. What normally throws me or throws my little team together when we approach awards is, do we tell, is that start, middle and end for each of those 4 sections, or is it the story and then the sections are put in? That's where I really struggle compared to some of the national awards where it's just one piece that you put in. And my second question, if I may, sorry, is Christine, you said that potentially there'll be a site visit. Absolutely up for that. Would love to show you around our new centre in Durham. However, I think I've got about 4 people working in there at the moment, and I appreciate that might change by October, but certainly as a government department, and I don't know if I've got any other government colleagues on the the stance from government is to stay at home as best we can, and sort of lead by example from that. So I would love to bring you in, but it might not, it'll not have the normal vibe and upbeat that it's got, which was my worry bead.
And you know what, Adam, if that's the case, we did everything virtually last year and we can still absolutely work with that this year. We've left it in as an option to make a decision, because what we did find was some people were saying, well, if we're open and if we're back up and running in whatever the new normal is, we would like you to come on site, because you do pick up a lot from just the feel and the vibe of somewhere. But
absolutely,
if we have people in there, then obviously we wouldn't be doing the visit, Adam, but we can absolutely still do a virtual one with you and however many members of your team wish to dial into that presentation from home. So that's
awesome.
not, you know, please don't worry about that side of things. Julie, do you want to take Adam's first question?
In terms of, that was a great question, thanks Adam. I think you could do either. For me, it all is part of the same, is that your story is all around your colleagues, your customer, your conduct and the company. So it could flow, or if you wanted to, you can do it in different sections as well. It won't make any difference at all, as long as what's in there packs a punch, and that, you know, we can see immediately from that part of the story in there that there's an impact, and that it has come back to what the core is. Often people will start writing a story and they forget what it was all about and what the point of the story is, and they'll get carried away about telling all the amazing stuff, but it doesn't come back to what we're asking about. So it's just making sure that those words come back to what it's all about.
That's really helpful. Thanks, Julie, and thanks, Christine, for that reassurance. That's awesome.
Thanks, Adam.
Thank you.
Thanks, Adam. It's really good to have government departments as part of the North East Contact Centre Awards. Obviously, your key employer, government agencies, government departments, central government departments and local authorities and other public sector organisations. We're really proud of how many compete for the awards, and we'd love to receive nominations from Land Registry. So thanks for being with us this morning.
That's great. We're a very, well, I've only been in Land Reg a few years. My background's commercial contact centre, and we've set up a brand new centre in Durham, and it's been really exciting to do. And again, historically, colleagues have worked at Land Registry for a long time, and they're not used to any of this activity. So we went in for some awards that we won last year, which was national awards, and I think it just exploded their minds. And what I really wanted to do was to really put them in the spotlight for the North East, because you know what they're doing in Durham is you know, I am absolutely super proud and really would love to shine a spotlight on them, but they're not very good at doing that. I don't know whether it's a government thing. I don't have the government background, so maybe I'm just a little bit different and out there, but yeah, they're getting better at sharing their stories. So fingers crossed, we will definitely have some nominations for you to have a look at.
Hi, Adam.
At the end of the day, Adam, the awards are all about recognising the people in this industry and making them feel proud. So anything you or anybody else in contact centres can do to help that, there's no better feeling when you see your people looking as proud as they are when they take one of these awards away.
I think even in terms of any not sure whether to submit this year, it's still a great exercise to go through, because then it gives you time to reflect and actually think, actually, we've done a really good job in the last 12 months. It's making you think about things and reflecting. And whether you do make the nomination this year or you're just preparing for next year, it can be a really good sense of achievement for the people going through the process, to be able to think, you know, we've done a really good job, we have made a difference. We might not have all the boxes ticked. We might not go in for the big category, because we may have more chance of putting a quality and go in small and go in for some of the smaller categories rather than going in for a big one and kind of test the water. So it's all about the quality of the story and understanding what other people are doing around you as well. But it's a massive feel-good factor for all concerned, whether you're going through the nomination process, whether you get through to shortlist, and whether you go through to judging, or in fact the cream of the crop you win. It's just a fantastic feel-good scenario.
Adam, I would say the same. So part of government as well with the student loans company in my normal daytime job, apart from obviously being
great.
a judge, and we're in a very similar state to you, so I'm busy blowing people's minds around what they can do. I know we've as a company have done national awards, but getting them to think about the local awards is something that's on my agenda. But the advice from Julie there is absolutely spot on. So I'm very much in the same space. It's our first year coming back to probably the NECCs, but actually going through that process of having a look at the award and what potential you've got within, whether it's a team or an individual. It's just worthwhile doing that piece of work. If we enter, we enter. If we don't, then next year is the year for us, most definitely. But the process of going through that, I think, is a great piece of advice from Julie.
No, and that's really reassuring to hear, Nicola, as another colleague working for government, that there's this thing about, oh, we can't be rewarded, we can't have any recognition, and obviously, as we all know, working in this industry, it is extremely stressful but enjoyable. It's a bit like Marmite, and I'm really super proud of the Durham team. So I'm really trying to say it's fine. We're allowed a round of applause, and we're allowed to celebrate. It's okay. But there's this government mentality of, oh no, can't do things like that.
Well, I can sense your level of excitement there. So I'm sure it's going to be a good year for you when you if you put pen to paper.
Thank you.
Right. Thanks. Julie, sorry.
Was there another one in there? With regards to the conduct section within the nomination form, it was mentioned to provide examples of how we differ from our competitors for colleagues at customer rep level. Do you have any other examples of how this could be? Yeah, there's, I mean, if you're going in for the People Engagement Awards, then there's benchmarking reports you can pull down from the CIPD, from, you know, other membership organisations and professional bodies, I guess. If it's sort of from a senior leadership level, it could be benchmarking from your own networking, from membership organisations such as the CCMA, the Forum, or the CCA. There's lots of different contact centre specific forums where you'll be able to benchmark, pull on their white paper research, and go to their networking events so that you can get some benchmarking information that's not just about the customer service level, but about operational excellence, about technology, about what people are doing with homework and that kind of thing. So it's just about widening your network to try and find where those bits of benchmarking information you can get them from, but there's plenty of support and help out there. If you wanted to reach out to us individually for some, you know, specific advice, I can certainly point you in the right direction.
Thanks, Julie. Emily, does that answer your question? Feel free to join if you wish.
Hi, sorry, I was having a couple of issues with my microphone before.
No problem.
It does a little bit, yeah, definitely. I think I'm probably thinking about the guys we might be looking to nominate from a customer service star sort of aspect, and you know, there's a couple of things that spring to mind from what we do here as to what we could provide, but I'm obviously just keen to provide as thorough evidence as we can, and if there was any other suggestions outside of what was mentioned there for that level going in, you know.
I think for the advisor level, Emily, when you're looking at conduct, that's around how they conduct themselves. So how do they put themselves out over and above, if you like, their day-to-day job to, it might be to help colleagues, to help customers. It's that, how do they go the extra mile, really? And just as I say, how they conduct themselves. Do they do their job? Do they go over and above? And how do they do that?
That's great. Thank you. That helps. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Thanks, Emily. Are there any other questions? Obviously, now's your chance to pick Christine and Julie's brains on this, and Nicola's been good enough to join the call as well, who sits on the judging panel as I explained. So I'll give people a couple of moments to consider if there's any other information that they need.
Can I just ask something else? Sorry, very quickly. It might be a bit of a silly question, but I know the nominations will get submitted digitally. That's absolutely fine. I was involved in NECCA a good few years ago, back in 2012, and I brought some, what I can only suggest would be kind of like the final stage of the evidence. It was quite manual, it was quite, you know, paper related and that sort of stuff. Is that still the case, or is it more digital these days for the other sort of evidence that would come after the nomination forms?
Okay, Christine, do you want to pick up
Yeah,
on?
Emily, I guess the short answer is it can take whatever format you like.
Okay.
We did see a lot more digital last year because we were doing everything virtually.
Yeah.
But if you still prefer the paper format, then you can by all means use that. But the use of video, the use of chats, the use of, you know, how customer feedback was displayed is entirely up to you. We had TikToks last year. We had, you know, a variety of different medias, probably some of which I'm not familiar with, but you know, that's what's out there. And yes, it's definitely more of a digital era, but the choice is yours, and
Great.
that's what's important. It's whatever works for your organisation.
Great, thank you, Christine.
You're welcome.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen again now just to close the session off. Before I do that, I'm going to try something. It's a bit experimental, and hopefully it'll be a motivational end to the session, but I need everybody's mics on. I tried this with Julie the other day and we thought it'd be quite a fun thing to do. I do need everyone's mics on, but I'm going to share my screen because I'm going to ask you to shout something out in due course as part of the session. You don't need to put your videos on, so don't worry, but just put your mics on if you would. I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint. Can you see that?
Yeah.
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 Yeah, so in terms of starting to prepare your entries, really thanks for joining this morning. Hopefully it's been useful, and it's never too early to make a start. It's quite daunting, isn't it, at the start of this process, but once you get into it, then things start to flow and things start to happen, and bringing the team together, sharing ideas, you'll quickly be able to fill in the different sections of the form, I'm sure, and we've tried to keep it as short as possible and as quick as possible to submit an entry. We realise that there are a lot of organisations out there who submit more than one entry, which is great because we want to get as many nominations in for the awards as possible this year. Last year we had 121, I think, so we're targeting 150 nominations from organisations in the North East this year. Bear in mind that there are approximately 150 contact centres across the North East, so I guess that's an average of one nomination per centre, but many do submit quite a high number of nominations, and we do encourage that. So it's free to make an entry, so there's no barrier in terms of cost for doing that. So please get as many in as you can before the 30th of July cutoff. We really can't make any exceptions to that cutoff to make it completely equitable for everyone concerned. So bear the deadline in mind and try and work ahead of that. Hopefully you've got enough time to prepare quality submissions before then. It's a simple Word document, obviously, to fill in and complete and email back to us to submit an entry. As I've said, the toolkit and all the forms and the categories and criteria document are all downloadable from the website. Any questions, contact us. The generic email address, which is monitored on a daily basis, is hello@project-studio, lots of project-studio, as you see on the screen there. Feel free to contact me directly. I'm andrew@projects-studio.co.uk. We've also got Mia, my colleague on the call, MIA, mia@projects-studio.co.uk, obviously. That's the office number on the screen there. My mobile number, if anyone wants to pick up anything with me, feel free to note down the mobile number. It's on my email as well. Any of you I've been in touch with, it's 07736 685 588. So if anybody needs to message me or contact me or have a chat offline, no problem whatsoever. 07736 685 588. Okay, you've all got your mics off. The next slide, just to try this out, has got some text on it, and I would like people on the call to shout out first thing that they read on the screen when they see the text on the next slide. So we'll give it a whirl and see if it works. You've got to shout it out, mind, please, otherwise it won't work.
Opportunity.
Who said opportunity is nowhere?
Oh.
And who said opportunity is now here?
Yes.
If you're seeing opportunity is now here, that's a really good sign, because you've got a lot of opportunity to submit some winning entries, some shortlisted entries to get through to the next stage of the judging. And that is the aim, that is your aim between now and obviously the end of July, to submit some quality entries to make sure that you're shortlisted, so that Julie, Christine, Nick and other colleagues can either come and see you or interview you online and have a visit to your centre, obviously COVID permitting, when we get around to October. Hopefully that's been a useful session for you all. As I say, we'll send the slides around and we'll include a recording of it online. Thanks a lot to Christine, thanks to Julie, thanks especially to Nick, who's been able to join us even though she's tested positive recently. So get well soon, Nick. We'll be thinking of you, and I hope you're feeling better. That's it for this morning. You've got 8 minutes of free time now to go and make a cup of tea or a cup of coffee before your next appointments. Thanks again, everybody. Enjoy the rest of the day and hope to receive as many entries as possible over the next few weeks.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks very much.
Thank
Bye.
you.